The sun was settling softly over the quiet suburban streets, bathing the manicured lawns and parked cars in a golden light that made everything look like a postcard. Peaceful, almost too peaceful for what was really going on beneath the surface. Vanessa stood on her porch watering lavender she'd planted months ago, the scent mingling with the warm air, moving with calm grace, steady and deliberate, at ease in her own skin. You could see it in her eyes, deep and rich with stories nobody ever got to hear. Vanessa, in her late 30s, had changed a lot over the last year, not because she tried, but because life forced her. She was the kind of woman who didn't need to say much to fill a room. Her presence was enough, but it hadn't always been that way. 12 months earlier, her husband Zerich sat across from her at their kitchen table and dropped the bomb. He'd fallen for someone else, someone younger, someone exciting, a 24-year-old influencer named Mia, famous for her perfect smile and champagne brunch posts. Vanessa didn't yell or cry. She just looked at him long and hard and said, "If you're sure, then go." And he did. Zerich moved just a few miles away into a sleek townhouse with all the trappings of a new life. Gray walls, a rooftop hot tub, and Mia's social media posts lighting up his feed. He had a different car, tighter clothes, a smile that felt forced. In his mind, Vanessa was stuck in the past, alone in their old house, clutching memories like a lifeline, maybe crying herself to sleep over what he'd left behind. But he had no idea. Not once did he ask what she'd been doing the last 12 months. She rebuilt herself piece by piece, morning yoga at sunrise, a solo trip to Morocco, throwing herself into launching a consulting business that was actually thriving. With corporate clients who appreciated her clarity and vision, a community built from unexpected places, book clubs, gardening groups, even quiet walks with strangers who became friends. Vanessa had done the hard work of healing, but Zerich still saw her as broken, waiting. One morning, Zerich drove past her house and saw her in the yard, the sun catching her profile like a painting. Something tightened in his chest. A flicker of something he hadn't expected. He quickly turned away, hoping she didn't see him. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't care. Later, sitting in a trendy cafe with Mia, scrolling through his phone, Zerich's mind drifted back to that moment. Mia, glowing under her ring light, asked if the pink lip gloss looked better than coral. He blinked and said, "They look the same." She rolled her eyes and went back to her followers, while Vanessa curled up at home with jazz playing softly in the background, protecting her peace like a sacred thing. A message from a friend confirmed a dinner reservation for next week's. Simple plans. A sign she was moving forward. Vanessa still had scars, of course, quiet nights when loneliness crept in, moments when the silence in the house was almost too loud, but she didn't fear it anymore. She faced it head on, letting it roll over her like a storm passing over a calm sea. As the sun dipped lower, Vanessa made herself some tea and glanced out the kitchen window. A silver car was parked across the street. She recognized it immediately. She didn't flinch, didn't move, just smiled softly and let him watch. That summer air had a softness to it, a kind of forgiveness and warmth even for old memories. Vanessa started showing up around town in a way that caught people's attention. Not because she was loud or flashy, but because she radiated something else. A quiet strength. A glow that came from having found herself. She still went to the same farmer's market, still sipped jasmine tea at the corner cafe, still dropped off donations at the local women's center. But now when she walked, it was with ease, with a laugh that lingered, with posture that told a story of peace. And that sleek black SUV parked downtown, it wasn't the car she used to drive. Zerich noticed it the first time he saw her stepping out, wearing a cream blouse and flowing pants that moved like silk, minimal makeup, gold hoops, and confidence that hit him like a punch in the gut. She didn't see him, or if she did, she didn't show it. That was the moment he felt it. Not jealousy, not regret, but something more unsettling. Disruption. A few days later, Zerich met an old friend who mentioned Vanessa's recent travel to Spain or Greece, and how she was glowing. Zerich laughed it off, but inside it felt sour. At home, Mia was still the bright, youthful influencer, but Zerich found himself tuning out, staring blankly while she ranted about algorithms or unboxing products. One night, Mia called him out. "You're weird lately. Is it work or her?" Zerich tried to brush it off, but she got sharper, accusing him of still thinking about Vanessa, even following her sister on social media. Zerich's smile faded under the weight of truth. Mia was a stranger he barely knew now, all lights and filters that couldn't hide the hollowness growing inside him. The next day, Zerich saw Vanessa again downtown at a boutique pop-up event, effortlessly chic in an olive jumpsuit, natural hair puff high, sunglasses on her head. But what caught his eye was the ring on her left hand. Delicate, gold, bold, not a fashion statement. He passed slowly. Their eyes met briefly. Her smile was soft, unbothered. No mockery, no coldness. Just life going on without him. That night, Mia live-streamed from their apartment while Zerich sat on the edge of the bed, mind elsewhere. Back to that porch with lavender and soft jazz. The next day, the scene shifted to a garden party, sunlight filtering through. Rose-covered trellises, jazz melodies floating in the air, laughter in little clusters. Zerich arrived with Mia, her coral dress hugging her figure, phone in hand, already snapping selfies. But as his eyes scanned the crowd, they froze near. A hydrangea bush where Vanessa stood, radiant in gold, her puff high and sleek. Gold earrings catching the afternoon light, her laugh effortless. And beside her stood a tall, broad-shouldered man with deep brown skin, a clean-shaven head dressed in a navy suit without a tie, his hand resting gently on Vanessa's back as they moved in rhythm, as if they belonged together. And Zerich's smile grew tight and forced when Vanessa's eyes caught his briefly. With a polite calm, nothing more, prompting him to approach with Mia trailing behind, still chatting about a brand deal, and he said too loudly, "Vanessa, it's been a while," to which she coolly nodded. "Eric, Mia, good to see you both." But before more could be said, the man beside her extended a hand and said, "I'm Darius," with a firm but not crushing grip, adding with a smile to Mia, "And you must be the influencer. Vanessa mentioned your skincare content. Very consistent," which lit Mia up though she looked unsure, and then Zerich, voice cracking slightly, asked, "So, you two are—" And Vanessa glanced at Darius and smiled softly. "Married," a word that struck Zerich like a thunderclap, and when he stammered, "Recent?" Darius answered smoothly, "Not really. We just kept it private," as Zerich forced a laugh while Mia munched on a canapé, oblivious to the tension. And Darius began talking about a recent summit in Tokyo where he spoke on sustainable tech and working with underserved communities, making Zerich's world shrink. Realizing this wasn't just anyone, this was a man with purpose and presence, someone who had built something real, while Vanessa, the woman he left behind, was now shaping a future he'd never imagined. And when Darius excused himself, Vanessa turned to Zerich and said steadily, "You look well." And as he stared, she added, "You seem happy." When he asked if she was, she replied simply, "I am." Slipping her hand into Darius's, leaving Zerich standing there, champagne glass shaking as jazz played on, the woman he left behind thriving in ways he'd never believed possible, as the garden party drifted into evening with soft lights and mellow laughter, candles flickering on tables, and Vanessa and Darius sat at the center of a lively conversation, perfectly in sync and at home, while Zerich hovered by a hedge, swirling the last of his champagne, and feeling the unraveling inside, having expected bitterness or regret, but seeing instead a woman untouchable while he was the outsider. And two nearby guests whispered about Darius, a man soon to give a UN keynote, fluent in 5 languages, a consultant for governments, sending Zerich into silence as he sank onto a bench, throat dry, eyes unfocused, and Mia crouched beside him sharply asking, "Is this about her? Eric, seriously?" When he looked at her, really looked, she felt like a stranger. All her glitz and noise unable to mask the emptiness now clear to him, and he glanced back at Vanessa, who was no longer filtered or performing, just living, as the garden. Quieted, the sun dipped lower and the air cooled, leaving Zerich alone in the shadows until footsteps approached, and Vanessa stood before him, framed by golden light through leaves, calm and composed, chin lifted just enough, not noise, but a woman who had done the work of letting go. While he straightened, trying to appear stronger than he felt. But she didn't sit, didn't scold, didn't apologize, simply smiled and said, "Sometimes what feels like rejection is just redirection." Words that hung between them, warm and freeing, not meant to wound. And Zerich blinked, unable to respond, knowing it was too late to fix what was broken, too late to chase what had already flown away. And Vanessa didn't wait as Darius reappeared, hand resting gently at her back. Steady, sure, a home in human form, and they walked away together, steps in rhythm, energy unbothered. Their love, needing no announcement, their unity spoken in silence as Zerich watched them fade into the glow of the garden lights, feeling something sink deeper than heartbreak. The sting of lost grace, lost depth, a future he'd never built with a woman who could have been his empire, and he sat alone, watching Vanessa rise beyond what he ever believed she could be without him. And that, well, that's the hardest part. So what do you think, huh? Was Zerich right to leave, or did he just throw away something rare because he couldn't see its value? Drop your thoughts below. What's justice in a story like this? Share if you've ever seen someone rise while the person who left them falls behind. I'm curious how you call this.